of the President.
Okay. Second, Seth, are the roles of the consuls, charge d'affaires, and ambassadors important for the interests of the Philippine government?
Yes, definitely yes.
Okay, do they perform similar or the same functions in the performance of diplomatic missions abroad?
To some extent, yes.
Okay, are there no clear delineations between and amongst the functions of each?
Yes, yes.
So, do you agree with me that the roles of a consul, a charge d'affaires, and ambassadors are somewhat mutually exclusive insofar as operationalization is concerned?
Not on all matters.
Okay. Are you familiar with the qualifications of diplomatic appointees, the needed qualifications?
Yes.
Are these qualifications based on stringent criteria?
Yes.
Do you agree that it takes time to find the right and proper person or appointee to sit in the position of that ambassador who will be stepping down from office?
Yes, if you're talking about career ambassadors, the answer would be yes.
How about political ambassadors?
Well, it's not that rigid. The process is not that rigid. So if that's your question.
So are you
answer
saying
would be
that
no.
Political ambassadors are less competent than the career ones?
Not necessarily, but what I'm saying or what I'm driving at is that the process is not that rigid compared to career ambassadors.
It's a discretion of the president, you mean to say?
For political appointees,
Okay.
ambassadors.
Is it a difficult job? The job of an ambassador?
Well, if you ask me, it's not that difficult to attend to dinners of international countries.
That'll be all.
Wasn't quite sure what point you were making there, but not only 4 minutes to rebut Angelo and argue the benefits to retaining the extent.
The questions that I actually laid down before you, ladies and gentlemen, are exactly the points that I want to discuss in my speech. Because I want to argue the fundamental question of my side. Why is the extension beneficial to begin with? We submit, Your Honors, that the extension of the tours of duty affords the Philippine government, in times of exigencies, such as probable hiatus in office, with a better, if not the best representation in the international community through our Corps of Ambassadors. Because the basic premise of my debate is this: ambassadors' functions and roles as stipulated in the Foreign Service Act of 1991 and the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations are of undeniable importance. We're talking about ambassadors here negotiating about sensitive issues, such as territorial disputes, such as the release of prisoners who are detained in specific countries, Your Honors. Such function dictates and presupposes that ambassadors are actually of impeccable qualification that makes them suitable for the job that they are holding. Knowledge of a state country's history, substantial background of the diplomatic ties between our government and that of the other state, diplomatic skills, and of course, language proficiency in certain cases. These qualifications may not at all be readily accessible during times of exigencies, Your Honor, especially in the status quo that we have today, wherein the current administration is yet to appoint or complete his corps of ambassadors that can best replace those who are actually in the position right now. What happens if we revoke that particular extension that we have in the status quo? First, we submit that there is going to be a propensity for unqualified appointees to sit in the post for the simple reason that we want to comply to statutory requirements, ladies and gentlemen, because their term is coterminous, henceforth, they should step down into office. We say that given the importance of the post, a hiatus is something that we cannot afford to have. An abrupt and hasty appointment is most likely to happen simply because, we need somebody to sit in that particular office. The pragmatic aspect will be tackled by Jen because this is a pragmatic question. We need to talk of smooth transition. But on the second level of analysis, we submit, Your Honors, that the current diplomats are among, if not the best that we have.
Is an extension the same as an appointment to a diplomatic post?
No, Your Honor. This is a different thing. It's entirely different. Going on to my next analysis, current diplomats are among, if not the best that we have. We give you the examples, Your Honor, of Delia Albert, our ambassador to Berlin, who can actually speak 6 languages and is very highly regarded by the European Union, and even Domingo Shason, our ambassador to Japan, because of his diplomatic successes with missions to Japan. New appointees have a very, very big shoes to fill in, notwithstanding those who are actually erring, ladies and gentlemen. We need more time to make the new appointees. And we believe 3 months is a very reasonable period for us to reflect who is going to reflect those who are seated in office. But even if there are individuals who they argue are capable of performing the jobs of the ambassador, such as the ones who are second in line that charge the affairs. We say this is simply not enough because the functions and roles of ambassadors are very, very exclusive to the person of the ambassadors themselves. Internally, they are the ones who establish as esprit de corps with the people who belong to a particular embassy. But externally, it is the ambassadors who do things for the country regarding sensitive issues, such as if there are confidential matters that should only be exclusive to ambassadors, such as environmental protection cases, territorial disputes, or even negotiating for prisoners who are actually detained in other countries. We submit, ladies and gentlemen, and your honors, that our site is more beneficial simply because it is more practical to begin with. While we are waiting for individuals to sit in that particular post, it is really more, yes, Your Honor.
Is the extension requires the confirmation of the Commission of Appointments and the agreement of the host countries, which requires their credentials?
There's a statutory, there's a requirement that they need, sir, to have the appointment of the Commission of Appointments, and they're also subject to the authority of the receiving state. We agree on that, Your Honor.
Okay, okay, Angelo, 2 minutes to cross-examine, okay.
Mr. Speaker, I only have 3 questions for you. First question is there hiatus in Japan right now?
Thank God there's none.
Yes, because as far as we're concerned, the ambassador from Japan already went home and we're not yet experiencing any problem from Japan right now, Mr. Speaker. Second question, can you name a country where where the ambassador is really needed to stay because we're talking about a topic that's life and death?
Yes, such as what Princess argued a while ago, especially when the circumstances are not entirely incumbent upon the performance of the functions of the ambassadors.
Can you name a specific situation or country that we're encountering this kind of problem?
In Riyadh, where we have detained prisoners who are in the danger of being put into the capital, in the death row, or who are already in the death row.
Well, let's assume that the fact is true, Mr. Speaker, and members of the South. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt. Last question. Did you say that ambassadors are the top person or the top qualified person to be occupying such position?
Yes.
Yes, because you said that in your argument. Because we're talking about political ambassadors here, Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
and your honor. And as we all know, political ambassadors do not go under rigid procedure or test, unlike career ambassadors. And they're appointed at the pleasure of the President, Mr. Speaker, and confirmed by the Commission of Appointments.
And the question is?
And in Australia, Mr. Speaker, I'm questioning if you really argue that they are... Okay, that's all. That's my question, Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Sara Sacramento, 4 minutes to rebut Voltaire and for your constructive speech on the practicability of recalling the extension.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of this House. This is to prove that the proposition of the negative side is highly impracticable and legally impossible. Primarily because the Civil Service Act, ladies and gentlemen, provides that the ambassador is coterminous with the appointing power or the appointing president. We all know that these 21 people, actually minus 7 since 7 already expressed their desire to come back to the Philippines, has already ended their term on June 30. So what is there to extend when their term has already ended when it came June 30? Second, the Constitution itself does not allow the President to extend. It only gave the power to appoint and reappoint, which is reinforced by our Foreign Service Act, which provides that the President, which with the ratification of the CA or the Commission of Appointments, to appoint ambassadors. Ladies and gentlemen, there were several jurisprudence provided by the Supreme Court regarding the holdover doctrine, which was the main bread and butter of Secretary Romulo, which we are now to rebut. Primarily because a holdover principle could only be done if there is an enabling law. Is there an enabling law in FSA, in our Civil Service Act? There is none, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas in the two cited cases, ladies and gentlemen, there were provided.
But isn't there a mechanism under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations wherein an ambassador may be appointed in case there's a vacancy or he is unable to comply with his obligations?
Actually, no, Your Honor, but the Vienna Convention actually provided that in the absence or in the incapability of an ambassador to continue or to fulfill his duties, a person shall be appointed as a charge d'affaires, which would be an interim or OIC in that position unless and until a new ambassador is to be named and to be appointed. In which case brings me, ladies and gentlemen, to the fact that there is no disruption of political affairs. Primarily because in the embassy, you don't have only the ambassador as an officer. You also have your consul generals. You have your attached agencies, your attaches. Ladies and gentlemen, an embassy does not work simply because there is an ambassador. There are other people at his disposal, which could also do the job. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vienna Convention immediately provides us with a substitute, that is the charge d'affaires. Now, are we to say then that the charge d'affaires, having qualified actually with the exams, actually have gone the stringent qualification requirements of the FSA, is not equally capable or is not equally competitive as an ambassador? I beg to